Hey, Clint Butler here with Digitaleer, and thank you very much for checking out the top SEO factors for October 2022. Down below, you're going to have an interesting table. Obviously, it's ranked 1 through 200, 1 being the best, 200 being, hey, something else you need to take care of. But there's a lot more to this table that you need to know and understand. And so, with that, I got Ted Gobitis on the line. He's the creator of this table. He collects all the data that all of his users send to him via the software called Cora. And you can check out Cora in the link in the content, or check out the table below and see how you can leverage this stuff to learn more about search engine optimization, the top SEO factors for October, and potentially the top SEO factors for 2023. Check it out. Enjoy the interview, and thank you. So, Ted, thank you for joining me. What we, I think all of this stuff is pretty much, it is what it is, right? That doesn't need all that much explanation, except for the aggregate SEO thing. And I'm assuming there's something proprietary behind that to give a better indication of an update coming.
I'm not doing any prediction on that anymore. What I used to do is I attempted to predict Google updates, and I had some success with that. And my technique was more about DevOps, and I used to have a method that could detect a large data deployment in Google's data centers. And so that was back in the IMG days, and these charts started around that point. Google has since changed their DevOps, and that technique no longer works as well as it used to.
Mm-hmm.
So I used to plot my predictions against the SEO weather so that you could see my prediction and then you could see all the calamity that would follow the prediction.
Right.
And so now I am just plotting the aggregate SEO weather. And the thing about the aggregate SEO weather is that all these services, they have their own methodologies and their own scales for scoring things. And so what I do is I gather their overall scores for SEO weather and I normalize them to a 100-point scale and I plot them together. And so Bright Local tracks local, and SEM Rush Sensor is the most popular one. And when they all move together, that's kind of a big signal. And really, it's just there to say, hey, there's a lot of stuff going on. You should probably be aware of that, or, all's quiet. You know, it's just there to let you know that, is there a lot going on or is it kind of quiet?
Okay. Makes sense. All right, so let's get into the best part of this, and this is the factors list. So I'm going to skip over the obvious and that they're ordered. The most important is number one, and the least important is 200, unless you're playing a practical joke in the SEO world and you flipped it upside down on purpose. So let's, I want to go over each of these columns just to make sure that we're all on the same page and as best you can in plain non-science English. How do we leverage this? And we'll start with correlation.
Okay.
Zero is a wash, I'm assuming, and then the negative numbers, the higher the negative, the better it correlates. Is that
Yeah. So if you imagine a graph of let's say rank position in Google on the x-axis and the factor measurement on the y-axis. And what ends up happening when you do that is, uh, and I don't have a graph of that here. I wish I did. But what ends up happening when you have that graph is as you get closer to ranking number one, if it's a normal ranking factor, you tend to have more of that factor if it influences rankings.
Right.
And so what ends up happening is your slope of the line has a negative slope because the more of the factor you have, the closer to one you are. And the less of it you have, the worse your ranking gets. And so the correlation coefficient is negative because it describes the trend line, which has a negative slope. And so the correlation coefficients, they range from +1 to -1. And for most SEO factors, the closer to -1 it gets, the better it is, the stronger the factor is.
Okay. So when we have these, they go in, what is the difference in the color?
Well, the green correlation coefficients mean that they were statistically significant. So they meet our definition of 95 to 99% statistical significance.
Okay.
And so the other ones, they did it some of the time, but they didn't do it all of the time. So it's a bit harder to be truthful in the reds. So the red ones weren't always there.
Okay. So would it be safe to say that if someone didn't have Cora and couldn't run this report for themselves, they should stick to the green factors in the correlation?
Um, I mean, it would be a good place to start, but the truth of the matter is I'm giving you the top 200 factors out of a list of about 12,000.
Yeah.
So everything on this list is probably worthy of consideration. And so even the very bottom of this list is still, above the other 11,800 factors.
Okay. That's
Um, so they should all be useful to some degree. But everybody has their own situation, and you might already be strong in these and weak in others, so they might not all be as applicable to your situation. So you have to kind of figure out what you need to do. The other thing is that some of these, might not be as competitive for your keyword. And so, you have to factor in what's going on your page and what's going on with your competitors. And, that's why I can get away with publishing it, because at the end of the day, you still need the measurement data if you want to know exactly what you need to tune and how much. B, you want to know when you need to stop tuning it so you don't invest too much into what you're doing. So these kind of tell you important areas, but they don't tell you how much of the areas you need and when you should stop. And so it's not the same thing as having a Cora report for your URL and keyword.
okay. Perfect. All right. Number one, Max. I was assuming that of all of the reports that had this particular factor, 77 was the max number of entities that you got.
Yeah, it's windowed to a month. So of the month, that's the maximum measurement in the number one spot on Google. That is for that month. Of all the keywords we had that month, that's how far you could push that factor and still rank number one.
Okay. And then the average was 27.
Yeah, for page one.
Okay.
And so it's really interesting when you look at the variations in the HTML tag in number seven, somebody had almost 67,000 variations on a page and they got punished all the way into the number one spot.
Yeah. Honey Witcher should be ashamed of herself.
Yeah.
Okay, usage percentage. It's the percentages of the reports that were sent back to your server.
Keywords.
Keywords.
So the way the Cora shared data works is it's anonymized data, so I don't get the keywords. So I don't know on the server what niches you're operating in. We use an SHA 256 message digest, which is a nerdy way of saying it's one way encrypted. You can't decrypt it. So I get this one-way encrypted string, so I know how many unique keywords that we have in the shared data, but I don't know what the keywords are.
Okay.
And that way I can tell, are we getting the same keyword 10,000 times, or do we have, a lot of different keywords? And so I can tell what percentage of keywords are these factors applicable to. So we could tell that, the first factor is a strong correlating factor for 98% of keywords.
Okay. And then this number of searches, search percentage.
Sorry, I got this backwards. There's actually new data in the report. So the thing I just said is actually the searches.
Okay.
So the usage one is different. So the searches is the number of keywords. So what percentage of the distinct searches is this factor applicable to?
Okay.
Oh, boy, messed that up royally.
So 70% of the searches for factor number 3, 70% of the keywords were
Yeah,
using or had number of distinct entities as a factor in their reports.
as a strong correlating factor with rank position. So
Okay.
it's significant. So the usage percentage is a new data point. So this wasn't in the old top SEO factors. This was data that we've been collecting, but we never reported on. So the usage percentage is brand new. This is what percentage of the top 100 is using this factor. So
Okay.
if it's broadly used in the top 100, or is it sparsely used in the top 100?
All right. I think that's it. I just wanted to make sure that we completely understood the table and what we're looking at. And it's great to hear your perspective on how we should be analyzing this and kind of what we should use it for versus just kind of taking it for granted, obviously, that it just applies to everybody and the need for running individual core reports, regardless of having the shared data still. So thank you very much for taking the time.
Yeah, no problem.